for another round, like diving back into the live coding.
Yes, we still have 3 more to go, 2 semifinals and a final, and these will both be the traditional 25 minutes from here on out.
Yes.
So first up we have Evil versus Alcama. Both of them did awesome shaders in the early rounds. Evil with some crazy geometric thing, and Alcama with this like lightning-y Tori thing. So yeah, this is definitely going to be really exciting. So I don't know. I don't want to wait any longer. I want to get started.
Get started. So we should get started if we can. As always, Phobium behind us is behind the decks, running the music for the competition. Yes. Yeah. Good. And we will stay on the line to comment, provide some live color commentary for this, which at least one of us should be more
color commentary.
Color commentary, yeah.
As opposed to monochromatic commentary.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Which
just
is,
to clarify.
I don't even know what monochromatic commentary would be, because color commentary is, providing opinions. So what is?
Okay.
Yeah. Well, you
Facts,
probably.
Maybe.
Yeah,
Luma
I guess
is the facts and chroma is the.
There you go.
The presentation.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So.
CSS versus.
Yes. So what we're actually looking at, opposed to our crap, is Eva on the left and Alcama on the right. So Eva went straight away and just basically deleted everything. Except again, most people keep the UV calc and then that out color output in the shader, which is kind of funny. So now he's working on TR, which I can see RO and RD, which is probably ray origin and ray direction. So TR is probably trace.
We're going to do ray marking.
Yes, very typical. And I believe Alcama is setting it for the same thing, although. Or Alcama is moving, yeah. It defined pi, defined, again, a time constant, exactly the same as what he had last time, or so, more or less.
I don't know if you covered it in the last round, but what Alcama currently has, or what's currently compiled, is the default state of this version of it. So
yes, we need some place for the contestants to start, and we decided to use this really special-looking shader, and that hasn't changed in years. So everyone has this common starting point whenever we have these competitions. Got it. And some people keep it around a while, some people just get rid of it, some people work it into their production like Rody did earlier, which is really cool. Yeah. Especially for a shorter round, I thought that was really clever. But yeah, so right now we're seeing the standard live shader coding 3D version beginning, where both contestants are basically working on this ray marching loop, which is a way to render some mathematically defined 3D surfaces on this 2D plane that they have to work with.
Yeah, because in the end, this is just two polygons.
Yes, 2 triangles, which makes a rectangle.
Yep.
So it fills the screen, and then for every pixel, you get this piece of code run. It outputs a color, and that's GPUs, folks. Especially modern demos, 4Ks, all that kind of stuff are really using a lot of these same techniques. So
you can do a 4K in this framework though, because you would, first of all, this is WGL or GLSL in the end, so you would need, I guess you could make it, you could take a shader that's the output of this and then maybe wrap it in something.
Exactly, yeah. You would wrap it in some C++ code, which here is in the editor that gives that shader to your driver. Yeah. And also you need to tell it to draw those 2 triangles with that program, so there's a bit of glue. And then typically for like a 4K, you might add some music. 1K, or 4K, you'll definitely add some music.
Yeah,
1K,
well, if you want to win.
Yes, 1K, you might add some music. Usually that's pretty common now. So yeah, but it's a lot of the same techniques in terms of actually doing the visuals. So I think we've seen in the last few years that live coding especially has brought in a lot of fresh blood, at least fresh from the demo scene perspective, that are, I think, coming to do these compos and then go on to continue to do some larger 4K works. Or not, some of them also just kind of do the live coding circuit, which is really cool. So a lot of really talented people seem to be attracted by this, which I think is really nice.
So it's kind of like, well, I wouldn't call this accessible. Within the context of a demo scene, yes, probably. In the context within graphics coding, definitely, but from a dude on the street, this would probably mean nothing. But in terms of being accessible, first of all, it's GLSL. You can run it on the internet. You can do, I'm guessing there's been some recruitment from Shader Toy, that community,
Definitely.
the Shader.
Definitely. There's a lot of overlap.
I can't remember what it's called. There's Shader Toy and there's one other Shader Toy.
Okay, I'm actually not familiar with that.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, but Shader Toy definitely. A lot of graphics programmers hang out there and share ideas there. And I think a lot of people, when they see these, especially, it's just a quad and it draws all these crazy 3D stuff, and it turns out there's competitions for that, right? It's definitely a gateway. So it seems that, at least with these live coding, there's a lot of overlap with the graphics community as a whole. So Evil got a Marcher working sooner, it looks like.
Well, sooner we don't like. So we got to this point faster.
Yeah, got to something visual faster, I should say.
So when you're doing these competitions, and you're not doing them this year, obviously, because you're sitting here with me, but you've participated in the past at Solskogen, at other parties, I guess. At this point, when you're like 5 minutes in, like, do you work on the concept before the round, I'm guessing? You know what you're going to do?
Yeah, so it's a bit back and forth. I've done ones where I go in blind intentionally, and I've done ones where I go in blind unintentionally, and I've done ones where I try to prepare a bit, and I've done ones where I try to prepare a lot. And the most fun ones by far are the ones where I prepare a bit. Yes, so if I think about it for an hour or a half hour before, and then come in with kind of an idea of a concept, there's been a couple times where I've actually tried to flesh out that idea, and then I generally fail to execute it when I do that. Some of these guys are a lot better at that particular skill than I am, so they do a lot more impressive stuff. But generally, yeah, I like it when you can kind of think of a concept for a while, and I think Evil in particular has that kind of approach.
Okay.
I think he focuses on a lot of taking some geometry and kind of folding it together in really interesting ways. So he'll make some kind of base shape that is like 3 or 4 primitives kind of stuck together, and then he'll kind of fractalize it in a way, if that's a way to put it. So he kind of makes it fold into each other and repeat and everything. And I think he generally thinks about the shapes he's going to put together first.
Right.
And I think that kind of shows. So he ends up with very complex shapes with several different colors and things kind of put together. I think that's really cool. I don't really know Allkama's approach, but I know
it seems to be taking that black and white approach we talked about, monochromatic approach you talked about.
Yeah. The Evil looks like already has a sphere and some lighting, it would seem, and even some kind of background gradient, I would assume. I don't think that's geometry, because either the light's moving or we're spinning around it with the camera.
Right.
Allkama has a circle, which is probably a sphere. Looks like he's doing normal calculations. So then we'll see.
It's a sphere. Probably?
Yeah, we'll see that it's a sphere, exactly. So it's a, and the camera's moving slightly, it seems, which you can really only tell by looking at the edges.
Yes.
It's hard to get that effect otherwise right now.
Aliased.
But this looks all right. Evil looking like he's doing some kind of smoothing. Probably going to smooth between a couple objects with that. Again, I guess we're a bit into the round, but this is still pretty early for a 25-minute round, so we're still seeing a lot of setup. I think this is pretty common.
So what you're looking at is basically like, if you're not used to coding, if you're coming from it from a graphics point of view, we think of this as procedurals, maybe like procedural shapes.
Yeah, like exactly. You're kind of building the primitives. So you're gonna take a sphere and put it together with a cube, and to do that, you need to make a sphere and you need to make a cube, right? So,
yes.
So we're kind of seeing all these being defined and the way they're going to fit together.
Oh, now he has.
Yeah. So this is the normal. So this is some kind of vector that determines where the face is pointing. I had a hard time explaining that on a conceptual level other than the mathematical definition.
I always thought about it as like the problem we had when we set up this room, actually, is like with the glass behind us, the normal, like if we were able to turn the glass around.
Yeah, the reflections would be wrong,
reflection would follow, right?
Yeah.
Well, they wouldn't follow, they would distort according to how they hit the plane. That is that didn't make it simpler.
Right, but speaking of reflections, it looked like Evil added a slightly more complicated shading model, or lighting model, so his surface got a little bit shiny. Before it was completely what we call diffuse, so light kind of bounces in all directions and then things look kind of flat or matte. But then there was a bit of shininess added. And now we see the sphere has been replaced by a cylinder. And again, with Evil's approach, I think this is pretty typical. Going to build some kind of primitive made of other primitives, and then going to fold it. That's what I would predict. And again, Allkama is a bit of a wild card. I don't, at least for me, I don't really know what he tends to go for. But I was definitely very impressed by his last performance.
Yeah.
Now it's a bit early to tell. Well, there's some lighting.
Yeah.
Some moving lighting. Again, that may be the light moving or it's us rotating or something. no way to know yet, because there's no frame of reference. So
I guess it's both.
yeah, it could be any. It's up to interpretation.
Like there's no, like the concept of a camera,
Yeah.
the concept of a viewer, the concept of eyes. It's all.
Yeah, typically in graphics programming, that is how that works, right? You don't move the camera. I mean, you do conceptually, but the way you make it rendered is you kind of move everything inversely. It's kind of funny.
Like the old adage, or the old saying, like, which is mal-contributed or attributed to Michelangelo, or whatever it was, whoever the sculptor, like
Michelangelo.
Yeah. How do you do the statue of David? You take away everything that's not David,
Right, yeah.
which is, he did not say that apparently, but it's a nice, funny, tiffy internet fact.
Abraham Lincoln probably.
Yeah, probably.
He said that on the internet. Now Evil has added some more shapes to his base shape, right? So now here it's this kind of, looks like a kind of cube, and the cube is being repeated. And the way that that's typically done with this ray marching approach is you don't actually draw many cubes. You actually fold the space, so the space repeats.
Right.
So you take the space around the cube and you make that happen many times. It's a bit of a strange backwards concept, but it's
This is how we end up on the ship in Event Horizon. Is that what you're telling me?
yes. It looks like he's headed in that direction. So now we've got some rings, which is a cylinder with planes, and that's another cylinder taken away, and then repeated again by repeating the space and tweaking that geometry a bit. So again, a more complicated base shape. Alcama has added a fromage variable, so I don't know if he's making cheese.
Country.
Yep. And also Alcama has also added a more complicated lighting model, so you can see things are a bit shiny.
Nice bit of colors too.
Yeah. Very subtle. And here, Evil's adding the colors.
There you go.
Again,
We're at that
shapes.
point,
Yes.
very near the half point, where everybody starts adding colors, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, this is definitely, at least from the entries that I've seen from Evil, this is definitely the formula. Make a base shape out of a few different primitives and add some colors to those individual primitives. And if he starts folding it, I'm calling it.
Well, it's spot on. I am interested in what Alcama's doing. You who have watched multiple of these, like, again, does it come down to strategy? Do you have something in your head, plan it, or does that generally not pay off because you actually need time at the end to tweak it to make
For
it look?
some people, it pays off. Some people have maybe it's the patience to really internalize those ideas.
Yeah.
And they can really pull it off. I find that that's difficult for me, and I like that feeling of being inspired by what's happening in the moment, which for better sometimes works and sometimes it doesn't. So I think ultimately though, even the people that are memorizing a lot have a mix of both.
Yeah.
It's just where that balance is different.
At some point you have to show what you're doing anyway.
Yeah, and also you need to know how a ray marcher works. Like that's you're gonna have to remember that, even if you don't if you do 2D stuff all the time, but if you're doing a lot of these compos, you want to change it up too. So you're gonna have to learn that eventually. A skateboarder's not gonna skip learning how to kickflip. It's like bread and butter kind of stuff. Anyway, Evil, we can see, has started to, again, fold the shape, repeat the shape. So just building on the building blocks. And you can see here, this is interesting because if you add some rotations in some of these foldings, you get this weird stuff where the objects kind of get cut off and cut into each other. And it looks a lot more complex than the base shape. So you get this whole sum is greater than the whatever it is.
Like free complexity.
Yes. And Evil does really well at that. He's able to tweak a lot of the parameters to find interesting geometry in these basic shapes.
You can't just brute force this. You have to have some idea of what you're doing, otherwise you're going to end up with something just noise,
yes.
right?
So I can imagine he might have made up this base shape, for example.
Right.
But he also has the experience to know how to fold space around it and also look for interesting patterns that, again, look a lot more complex than they are. That's a great strategy.
We should also, at this point, say that like all the live competitions that we run at Solskogen are live voting. So you go to the URL at the bottom of the screen, woohoo.solskogen.nl, to vote. You vote during the live coding competitions, the live graphics competitions. You can't wait until they're done. So you determine who wins and goes to the final.
And this is your chance.
This is your chance.
So Evil started to add some camera movement, and now Alcama.
Wow.
Sorry, Giddy, who's running our stream here. It has suddenly made the geometry much more interesting, and I didn't really see any progress in this, or couldn't really predict this, so that was really exciting.
It came out of nowhere.
Yeah, and it's a very interesting, again, this kind of folding, and you can see these rotations that are in that. It's very cool.
Yeah.
Very interesting geometry here.
Cool.
And again, Evil's moving the camera, but I think it's the same geometry as before. But I'm guessing there's going to be some additional folding and movement as well. Because again, when you fold the space,
yep,
that fold doesn't have to be static. You can move where you fold it, right? And that's kind of like what Alcama is doing a bit as well.
Hall of mirrors where the mirrors actually rotate.
Move, yeah, and you get a lot of
that's kind of cool.
quote unquote free complexity.
Yes. I didn't mean to belittle your.
No. That's a great analogy. So now Evil is adding more to the base shape, right? He's adding more cylinders into the original shape.
Yeah.
And it gets these different lines and different shapes. And
that is really cool.
It's just like in sound design, you might make some bass sound and add some distortion, and then go back and tweak the bass, and it brings out new stuff. It's the same idea.
Yeah. All of these overtones are making it interesting.
Yeah, exactly. So the folding is like adding overtones.
Yeah.
But you need something to add them to.
Yeah. I'm interested. So Alcama also has a little bit more of an interesting camera move. Now, it's rotating, but it also has like this is where we make fun of ourselves with the graphic on the internet, like pan tilt. Everything is pan.
Yes.
Was it? Yeah. Everything is pan.
It's really cool though. Alcama also had a very similar kind of camera style in his last entry, and it. I didn't see the code to do it. Admittedly, I didn't pick that out, but it it kind of looks like some basic sinus stuff.
Yep.
But I think it's really effective, especially how slow it moves. I love when especially cameras move slow, because it gives you a larger sense of scale to the world, for sure, when things are moving slower.
Oh, you can't hear this, but I can hear the music the Phobium is playing.
Excellent.
Oh, it's so good.
I wish I could hear it as well. Shout outs to Phobium, who's been DJing all of our live compos. And doing a fantastic job.
You should also go and get his music. It's on Bandcamp and also on phobium.net. So support artists, especially during this time, but always support artists, please.
One thing I noticed, Evil improved his shading. I don't know if he did this earlier on or if he did this recently, but you can see where the objects meet, there's a little bit of shading, like it's darker.
Right.
So that's, that's ambient occlusion.
Yes.
And that's, it simulates how light doesn't quite get in those corners, and it really adds a lot of,
it feels
I don't want to say depth, but you can see the contact.
It feels like everything is actually connected, rather than just have be floating geometry.
Exactly. Which ultimately we are looking at some floating geometry.
But it's like,
but any way you can make it look more physical is the effect you want. So. And then Alcama, the reflections here are quite cool.
Yeah, they are.
Also interesting to note about DJing. So Alcama typically DJs for this competition at Revision. And I don't know, I think he's been a programmer as well for a long time, at least to some degree. So, but I think traditionally in the demo scene he's been a musician.
Yeah.
So it's kind of cool to see him. Again, I'm hesitant to say make this transition because I think he's been a coder as well for a long time, but it is cool to see him start with this competition, right?
Yeah.
And is that vignette he just added, which made things a lot moodier, which I'm a big fan of. That's quite cool.
Yeah. Like, I hope Evil, there's 7 minutes left. I hope Evil adds some sort of post-processing to this, some sort of shading, not shading, but some sort of grading.
Yeah. We're getting into a point where it was pretty clear that Evil developed a bit faster in the beginning. But then, this is pretty late, like a late round in this competition, and you can tell that Evil developed a little earlier, but at the same time almost stagnated. Mm-hmm. At this level of competition, it's that can get you. Although you can see he's added these I guess light beams, right?
Yes, laser beams.
So I think that's another thing that we've seen more recently in these competitions, especially is this kind of look where I actually am not 100% sure how they do it in this framework, but I believe you can add objects that just accumulate some value as you go by them, rather than necessarily hit it.
Okay.
So here you can kind of get this glowy effect.
So what's funny about evils, or not funny, but what's interesting about that is once those lines came in, the world instantly became more interesting because you have different fidelities, like it was textures as well.
Exactly.
Something is sharp, something is soft,
Yes.
like it feels like it's actually being built.
Yeah, it feels much more complex again. Alcama has completely changed the colors and look of this thing, which is really nice.
If you're wondering why we sometimes stay quiet, it's because we're getting guests in the studio. We're watching the voting come in, and it looks like people took our suggestion to go vote. Oh, there's some noise function now.
A lot more, and it's been going back and forth, which is cool.
Yeah.
So here we can see it. Yeah, some noise has been added to those lightning bolts, like we saw with Alcama in the last round.
Yeah.
It's very similar now. That gives that kind of electric look. And I think we've seen that from Evil in previous competitions as well. So he's definitely no stranger to these techniques.
There's nothing wrong with. Oh, okay.
Yeah. Now you get this pulsating feel, and that added a lot. That was a really cool effect.
This suddenly got like density and atmosphere is what I'm looking for, the word.
As well.
Yeah, movement, atmosphere, like these random camera cuts as well.
Yeah.
Well, not random, but these camera cuts.
And Alcama went with the fisheye.
Interesting. Whoa.
Not a choice I would have expected, but I like it with this shape. With this scene, I think that's really cool. And with these longer, they look like camera cuts, but I mentioned that with Christian earlier. That's typically done by making like one long camera track, or conceptually, which is a bunch of like sine movements, and then you cut time into different parts of that, and that's a really great way to get like multiple camera angles, quote unquote, from just this really long base shape.
So you just make a base shape that's relatively sensibly oriented in terms of space.
Yeah, exactly. You're not going to look away from the thing.
Yeah.
You're just going to kind of fly around it a bit, but at the same time, you have all these like out of phase movements.
Yes.
That over time had a lot of variation. So it's definitely been great to see how Evil has started to progress again in the competition, because again, he started off really strong, and then it looked like he was staying still for a while.
Yeah.
And then now has started to add a lot to the scene. It's just some of these periodic movements are so effective.
Yeah.
So
I mean, there hasn't been any change in the overall shape of this world for a little bit.
right, yeah,
It's probably pretty happy with where it is, and now we're starting to have the shading, the atmosphere, the light, the extra effects.
yes. We might actually see though that he might fold the space a little more too.
Yeah.
Which I'm just very curious to see what that looks like at this point, right? And it may be worse, so it's probably smart that he's not doing that, or maybe he will do it. Yeah, I'm kind of excited to see where that goes.
Yeah.
Sorry?
No, it's just it's interesting to see how he went from black background, lit objects to through reflections, and then bright background reflections, and sort of. I mean, I'm going to just venture a guess and say this is just inverted.
I think it is as well, yeah. But it gave a completely different look, and I think it's pretty cool that.
It is stuttering.
Yeah. I think especially the shader on the left is not a cheap one.
Yeah.
Or a GPU to evaluate, which is fine, right? Like it's real time and it's still fast enough. So I think that's well. All right, so now we're seeing even more variation in Evils. He's adding more differently colored light beams. And
I mean, I was about to say, of course you're going to add teal, or yellow, teal,
yellow or orange, and
blue.
Again, it's a classic color scheme. I think it was called a cinematic color scheme for a long time, maybe still is, but there's a reason they use it. It's a good contrast.
All right. The votes are still very, very close. So if you're sitting at home watching this and have a clear favorite, or you're jumping back and forth, there's a minute and a half left. So it might be time to pick your favorites and stick with them.
And this is fun too. We're seeing Evil make some pretty drastic changes at this stage, which is, for lack of a better word, pretty ballsy with just a minute left. But you got to respect that. Whereas Alcama is looking at a lot of these like really subtle changes in grading and a
the
little bit of
movement
colors. Yeah, indeed, the movement has seemed to have gotten slightly more complex.
Yeah, it's like it's growing, expanding, growing.
Yeah. I think it's just twisting, but but it really adds a lot. And then just working on getting that framing in a way that he really wants. So I think really cool. But this is what that extra 10 minutes does.
Yeah, for sure. Like there's a big difference. And of course, this is one of the semifinals. So
Yeah, I think they're taking it a bit more seriously here.
yeah. Plus, you wouldn't get to this point unless you knew what you were doing. Probably.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. So very, very cool. 30 seconds left. Barely any time, and we're still seeing things change. We're still seeing things evolve. Actually, Eva went back a bit. Took a couple steps back, which is probably smart. It looks a bit better now.
Right. Last 10-ish seconds to get your vote in. If you're hearing this, you're probably 10 seconds behind on the stream, so it might be too late, but still. Yeah. 3, 2, 1, and hands away from the keyboards. The first semi-final of the live coding competition of the last Solskogen is over. Can we get a big hand for the contestants? And we are looking at the scores again. Here are the two semi-finalists, and do you want to announce the scores?
Right. So Evil with 48 points, and Alkama with 31 points. So Evil is our winner.
Yeah, Evil is our winner, and then goes to the final.
Yes.
It's gonna happen later.
Yes. So congratulations to both contestants. These are really, really, really good shaders. This is a very high level in this competition. Even for these guys, I think this is really good stuff, and I expected a lot.
Yeah.
They're both very, very talented. So awesome.
We got some questions earlier about if we will distribute these shaders. We hope that the authors take a local copy.
Yes. Admittedly, we didn't ask early enough. But we have, in hindsight, asked before this round started.
Good.
So hopefully, hopefully we got them. We're trying to collate them.
So if you liked what you were watching and want to take a look at how it's done and learn from it and start your own coding journey, most likely you will be able to get those shaders and get started.
Yeah.
We're going to take a short break, I think, while we reconfigure for the next two contestants, which are, do you happen to know? Sorry for skimming.
That's all right. I should have checked. I mean, we heard them before, Blackle and Provad.
Yes. So we will be back momentarily with the second semifinal.
Yep.
Yeah. And Fabian wants to play more. Play more. There you go. And you can't hear the applause, but we can.
Yeah.
All right.
Good for you.
Good for you.
Yeah.
You want a giffle?
Always. But isn't there a story about this?
No.
Okay. So you wouldn't like to read me the ingredients? For example?
Yeah, this is the traditional Solskogen mic check, where we read off the ingredients of these. And the other variants. There's like a gingerbread one. There's a vanilla one.
And there's nothing better on a stream than watching two grown men eat loudly.
Apparently, someone watches.
ASMR.
Yeah, do some ASMR. It's the last one. It's the last one. All right.
Yeah, these are delicious, though.
Throw up some woohoo so we can get off the stage. All right. Cool. You still have your drinks.
Yes, I need a drink.
There you go.
And we're back already.
Mid-sib even.
Yeah, so I guess that means we're ready for the next semifinal.
Almost. We're almost ready. So,
yeah.
But you can talk about Blackall and Provod, who got to the semifinals.
Yes, so Blackall and Provod both won their qualifiers earlier today with 2 epic shaders. I believe Provod had this particularly colorful reflective tunnel with all these like chambers in between that we were going through. I remember Blackall's being really great, but admittedly, I don't remember the content matter on the top of my head.
Fair enough.
But obviously, had to have been epic, and I've seen Blackall compete before, and she does really great stuff.
Yeah.
So obviously, this next semifinal is going to be something to look forward to. So, yeah.
Cool. All right. Then we're good to go. So let's kick it off with the second semifinal of the live coding competition.
And we are already getting started. Yep, I see cursors moving.
Okay, good.
And again, Provod deleting almost everything, which is great. Blackall may have done the same. I'm not actually sure, but again, we see some scene functions. So here we go.
A lot of it is gone, so it looks like she took away quite a bit. But like, to be fair, it's not that much boilerplate code to begin with, is it?
It's very little. It's that one effect, and then usually what people keep is there's this. You can see this UV variable.
Yeah.
Where they basically rescale the input pixel positions, so that instead of going from 0, to resolution size,
right,
they go from -0.5 to 0.5.
Okay.
And I think also it divides it by this resolution here, so it's also scaled with the aspect. So in Y it goes -0.5 to 0.5, and in X it goes a little bit beyond 0.5 and 0.5, so that you get
overscale.
Yeah, so like, you get the proper aspect.
Yeah.
Is kind of the point. Because the screen is wider than it is tall. So that was.
And they're getting some proper forward to the floor
beat
kicks to work with, I'm hearing.
This I can actually hear through the walls.
Yeah.
So I think that's awesome. Personally, at least when I'm competing in these competitions, this kind of 4 on the floor stuff is my favorite.
It's so
code too.
Pure, easy. Do you have to, when you get the FFT, you can pick your frequencies? It seems like there's some comment in the boilerplate code that tells you what to do.
Exactly. So the FFT, what it gives you is a spectrum in a texture.
Yeah.
So you get like a line of pixels. Left ones are low frequencies, right ones are high.
Got it.
And then you have these different smooth and integrated, and these are integrated actually kind of goes up and up the whole time, which is
like a counter?
Yeah, which is a bit strange. So if you have a lot of bass, it'll go up, a lot of bass will go up. Whereas the smooth one is just a smoother version of the FFT.
Right.
Because it can be quite noisy. This stuff changes over time very quickly. So
yeah.
And again, you usually see some people do a mix of using the FFT for sync and doing some other kind of periodic thing that they just kind of get to match the tempo. And that's one of the reasons why I like 4 on the floor, because it's consistent.
Yeah,
so
and if your DJ is nice, it also...
Yeah, it will stay that way.
Yeah.
In fact, I think Leguber actually was DJing in one of these competitions at Solskogen, where he intentionally kept changing things up.
Because of course he would.
Yeah, which was really fun in a way. So Blackall already has a March sphere with normals, and almost looks like some kind of rim lighting. That might just be me, but
no, I see it too. Well, maybe I'm dying as well. I seem to. Well, it would be a sphere, right? So
yeah,
there might be some color accumulation because there are a lot of triangles around the curving or something like that. No.
This is not triangles.
Sorry. Again, I'm trying to adapt to the world that has no triangles.
Right.
Yeah.
There are 2.
Fair, but they're not relevant to my theory as to why.
You were very wrong.
Yes.
And then Provod again setting up a marching loop, which we don't see the output of yet, but surely we will soon.
Yeah.
And I apologize to Blackall for not remembering what the last entry was. I swore to you when we were preparing that I would take notes on the entries.
Yeah, of course.
So that's my bad, but I know we're going to see something awesome this time.
It's also great when you don't have them in them.
Yeah.
I was actually enjoying a nice lunch break because we've been going at it quite hard to put this on. So while we were sitting in there's another room behind us where we're sitting with the Gruber, Flipside, and Urban, just eating lunch, watching the shader go. It was so relaxing and so nice just sitting there and having
enjoy the party for once, right?
Yeah, it's good. It's
After
good.
organizing all those years.
I mean, for Solskogen, I would, in the back of the room at Flop Baby had this. It used to be a cinema, so we had this small window that I can look through into the hall, which was nice. But yeah, this is something completely different.
So we saw a brief flash from Provod. I think he just visualized the UV value, right? With like black in the bottom left, yellow in the top right.
Okay.
Just this two-dimensional gradient, and that's what we would expect. But not much else that we've seen, so I think that was just a little debugging view. I mean, there isn't much you can show before you have the marching loop finished anyway, if that's what you're doing, so it kind of makes sense that he's waiting. I don't think he's trying to do like a reveal. I think he's just trying to go through the boilerplate and make it nice. Which you have a bit extra room to do in a 25-minute compo.
Oh, I thought it says fractal, but it says fract.
Yes, fract is a built-in function that you get in GLSL, which stands for OpenGL Shading Language, and it takes, like, from a number, from like 1 to 2. If you took fract of 1.5, you have the whole number part, which would be 1, and the fractional part, which is 0.5.
So you just split out the fractional part?
Yes, and just take the fractional part, right? And so it gives you this kind of sawtooth pattern.
Yes.
Because you go from 0 to almost 1, and then 0 again, right? So it's this periodic function. And I believe that's kind of what we're seeing here. We see is fract P. If P is some kind of position on the screen that was scaled, then you fract.
There we go.
All right, so I think...
Full-on normal color party time.
Yeah, that was not what I expected that to look like at all. So I'm not sure. I think he's trying to make this kind of texture and map it to different kinds of objects.
Yeah.
So I believe with this, like, C is fract of the position, I think he's marching this object, and then he's using this fract thing to kind of visualize the object.
Right.
So it's like a procedural texture that makes him very aware of where things are spatially. Right. Because of this sawtooth pattern.
Cool.
And
now
then,
it went just full blue on black hole.
Yeah. Not sure what happened there yet. You can definitely hear the 4 on the floor.
Yeah, through the wall.
Yes.
For sure. And I can hear some of it with way less bass in my ear as well.
Yeah, so Provod basically working on a debug view here, and I think that's a good move.
Totally sensible at this point,
thought
right?
I thought it was going to be some kind of texture for the look, but I actually think that was just a debug view. But we'll see how it goes on.
Probably you don't start with the art part of this. Like if it looks like he's trying to build a room or a world or something like that.
And I'm thinking that maybe he's going for a specific kind of shape, because normally if you're doing a room, you don't need this kind of debug. Right.
Okay.
Like these guys, these contestants know
what a cube looks like.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly. They know how to model an inverted cube, which is what a room is. So I don't think he's going to need to do this debug view unless he's doing some kind of very interesting geometry. So could be wrong, but looking forward to seeing where that goes. But again, I think this is not what the final's going to look like. I think this is just a debug view.
What I like about this, and as well with the live graphics,
that was a lot of reflections, and we're seeing basically noise from numerical error, I think. So there's some debugging here that I think needs to be done. But actually, it's looking kind of cool in my eyes.
Yeah. But it's noise from, it's not ray traced.
It's ray marched, right? And so the noise, I think, is coming from that was not quite hitting stuff or something. It's a bit hard to say.
Yeah.
Is this progressing differently than I thought?
Interesting.
Yeah. Oh, black hole now has a lot of different cylinders.
Oh, okay, cool, good.
We didn't really see progressively how it developed, but
now it has this traditional, very classic. I won't call it it looks like a rounding error or something like that, where you have near the edges.
Yes.
Because they're not sharp.
Yes, that's a typical ray marching artifact. And what happens is when you ray march, you kind of try and step into the surface. And the way it works is if you just miss a surface, you're going to step a lot, thinking you might hit it near the surface, and then keep going. And what happens is at some point you don't want to just go on forever with that ray if it's never going to hit anything. And for speed, you usually cut that off at a relatively low number, like 100 steps or 60 steps. And if you get to 60 steps because of all those tiny ones, but then you don't go further, you just get black. And that's why it happens around the edges. Because you get close and close and then don't hit anything, but you waste all those iterations on basically nothing. And that's an artifact that, especially in this compo, we see a lot of coders just live with.
Yeah, because 25 or 15 minutes.
Yeah, that's not the kind of detail-oriented approach that you should have.
Don't focus on that.
Yes. In a 4K, you might go after that. In a 64K, you shouldn't show this, right? Like, then it's bad.
Yeah.
But in this compo, you want to focus on the overall impression.
Kind of has a look of this old stencil outline.
Oh, from early 2000s.
Yeah.
Definitely has that look. Cell shading, I think they called it back in the day. Yeah. That was always fun. Or you'd render the back faces. Expanded or something like back faces.
You get an outline of whatever you were doing, which would be horribly. Now we're seeing some sort of probably doing.
Yeah, so I think now it's clear what the noise is. I think he's trying to do some path tracing, which is probably why he started with a very simple room, because it's going to get very expensive. And I think actually the noise is because you randomize the reflection direction. You should have spotted this.
Oh,
and if you don't randomize it quite right, you can see the patterns in the noise, and that's what we see. But again, that's an artifact that you can live with in this compo. You'd want to fix that in any other renderer, but here you get the path traced impression. And
that's why there's talk of different color noise that you would use as well when you're doing a path tracer, right?
Yes, yeah, because this noise has all kinds of frequency content and patterns that you can see, and you want to use a noise typically where you wouldn't see the patterns. For example, blue noise.
Now Black Hole has got some stempelscener, as we call it in Norwegian.
I don't know that word. You learn something new every day.
Piston scenes.
Okay, right.
I actually think Luguber has a patent on piston scenes, or he gets a royalty every time someone does a piston scene.
Okay, let's hope Black Hole is going to cough up the cash for this one then. Kind of interesting rounding out these little holes that they go in.
To smooth the cornering and it looks like there's an artifact in it, because the smaller hole is, the less sharp the roundness is.
Yeah, it looks like they're blending the cutout with the original shape in a way that the smaller ones don't go as deep. Or they're cutting out a sphere or something, but I don't think so. I think this is one of those, you can see there's a corner. Where you take, I'm not going to try to explain that or decipher it in that form here. And then, so here it's very clear, again, Provod is doing this kind of path tracing look. Again, the noise function isn't very good in this case. He may try to improve that, or he may live with it, which would be perfectly acceptable here.
Choice, right?
That's something you'll get away with in this compo.
And
again,
if you wanted
4K,
to do
you're
something,
pushing it, but
but for this, it's okay. But if you wanted to do something about, you would have to write your own noise.
Yes.
Function.
And here he probably did write his own as well, but he just probably used a really, really cheap formula.
Right.
That's my guess. I didn't see the
cheap as in
code.
fast, right?
Cheap as in fast to write.
Cheap as in fast to write.
I think actually.
How hard can noise be to?
Well, if you want really random noise, it's really hard. Right? So,
okay, let's stay away from the extremes.
So if you wanted like really good perceptual blue noise, for example, you'll typically actually, or one way you can get that is actually just filtering noise, which you would do as like a pre-processed
with audio signal as well.
Yes.
Think about the same way.
Generate some white noise and filter it out, which you're not going to do here. That's more complicated to write. So I think this is just a cheap noise function. But if he can come up with like the right texture, the right geometry, you may not even notice the artifacts anymore. So I don't know how he's going to progress from here. I'm guessing he's going to start adding more complex textures. Either more complex textures or more complex geometry. I'm guessing we'll see both.
I'm guessing we'll see both, because if you're doing this kind of, like, it looks, the light lines look really interesting in the space.
Yeah.
But if you had some sort of reflective object in the middle of this, or preferably not in the center, but in this room, chucking a sphere or something in there would also reflect his light.
Yes, right. And bring out the good stuff.
Yeah, the good stuff.
Kind of.
Oh, now Blackwell has added reflections.
Yeah, reflections, and making the floor black. I think I kind of hope it stays that way.
It
because
looks
I think
really
that
good.
was, that was a really good choice. I've always liked the black reflections where it just darkens a little bit.
Yes.
So you get that impression that it's black, but also very shiny.
And reflections inside the tube as well. This is very cool.
And you can see some artifacts, like those reflections aren't perfect, but again, that's the kind of artifacts you live with in these kind of compos. And overall, the impression is really cool here.
I have to like the colors look as well, so.
Yeah, I do too. It's very vaporwave, right?
Yeah, it is.
It's an aesthetic that really
glow the shit out of it.
Yeah, it's an aesthetic that's still in right now. So I think that's quite cool. Here the material on the floor got a little bit lighter. It looks like a little bit more diffuse.
Yes. It looks like there is a spotlight or something shining. That's because as we're moving around.
I think my guess is the camera's moving.
Yes.
And that was the highlight we saw. We passed the 10-minute mark a little while ago. Provod's screen is not really progressing. I'm guessing it is, but not in ways that we can see, or at least not in ways that have been revealed to us yet.
Yep.
Seems to be fighting a compiler error. Not one that I have followed the code enough to see. And yeah, not much more to say while they're both looking more or less the same. About a minute's passed and I see almost no visual difference so far. Okay, Blackwell suddenly changes the material, so now it's like, I want to say coppery, but it's a bit too red for that, but looks quite cool. I also just now, I don't think I really even noticed them earlier, but the rounded edges on the cylinders I think is also kind of a nice touch. In fact, it looks like all the edges in the whole scene are rounded.
Yeah.
That might have been how it's implemented, the whole thing. That looks quite cool. And I'm not sure if it's my eyes playing tricks on me because the encoder surely isn't very happy with Provod's really noisy scene.
No.
But I thought I saw the noise getting a little bit better. I don't know if that was something he's tweaking or not. I kind of hope he's not working on that, to be honest, because I think
different focus.
Yes, I think the focus should be on the scene and the overall impression. Oh, and here we go, more geometry. So now he's added these kind of square cutouts, which pulls.
And it makes the light kind of pulse.
Yeah, it breaks it up and gives it this cool motion as it shines through the different objects at different depth. So quite cool. So yes, we're seeing more complex geometry. And Blackwell has now randomized the materials on some of the pistons, so I'm guessing we're going to see more complexity added in that way.
Oh yeah. It's pretty uniformly lit right now. So getting some more colors.
Yeah, variation in colors is a great way to do it. Variation in textures beyond colors is also nice. I'm not sure we'll see that with 7 minutes left.
Oh, now we have some camera moves.
Yeah.
Too.
Camera moves.
Well, we have one camera move.
Yeah. We are moving in a circle.
Yes.
Or an ellipse, at least.
Effective though.
Yeah, again, it brings out the depth, it brings out all those corners in the scene. I think we still need to see a bit more interesting geometry from him. In fact, even if those cutouts were a little bit less, I think that would be a bit better, but we'll see where he goes. From Blackwell, you can see that the light actually has a bluish tint.
Yeah, true.
Which is, I don't think I noticed last time we saw that highlight scroll by as we're just slowly rotating around this origin.
When Cosmo from Access was trying to teach me anything about color theory, like a couple of decades ago, he just told me never to fade or blend with black, just blend with almost black, but with a color.
Right. This was cool. So now some of the shapes have changed into like triangle shapes.
This is good.
It's a good variation. It's cool how it's like randomized which shape it is. I think that's a good touch.
Reminds me of the play box that you had
As a kid, yeah.
Walking you through.
And then when you get it in the wrong hole, you just take off the lid and throw it in anyway.
Yeah, of course.
So that's cheating. Yeah. Kind of kid I was. Anyway, one thing that's kind of interesting is when you randomize shape like this, especially, you can often get different artifacts where the ray thinks it's really close to a cylinder and oversteps and ends up stepping into a triangle, for example, because it doesn't quite line up. But here it's hidden pretty well. We get some crazy camera movement from Provod. I think he's tweaking, maybe adding FFT into the camera movement, or maybe not, I'm not sure. It's a bit much, but I'm sure he's dialing it back.
Yeah, it seems to be going down now.
Yeah.
I do wish to see some again, we talked about last round, like with some atmosphere with black hole.
Yeah.
It's pretty, like it's evenly lit all the way through, so there's no fog even. Is there a concept of that when you're rainbow?
Yeah, you can do fog. We saw that in Provod's last entry, I believe.
Okay.
And also Evil's had it as well. But I agree, the materials, although I really like the colors and I like the variation in the geometry and the colors, it would be nice to see, I don't know, some other kind of variation, especially in texture, which maybe we'll see. It's less than 5 minutes left. Provod is going full rave with his, I don't know if he's listening to the music and feeling that, but it seems like it fits.
Yeah, there might be some FFT action because it's moving. Sometimes it's moving, like getting a little bit of a jump.
Yeah, it looks like a kick from the kick, in a way. Black Hole's adjusting the camera.
Yeah.
I kind of like how it's changing over time. I think she's just tweaking a few values, but or maybe it is. No, it actually is one of those things where it's changing over time.
And
yeah.
then,
Getting some zooming.
Field of view.
Yeah. Oh, this actually, I really like this.
So we're going for the isometric.
Yeah, closer to that. Yeah, I think it's narrower.
Fully narrower. Yeah.
Yeah, and it gives you this cool scale. Take
Cinema
notes.
4D on Instagram look.
Exactly. Yeah. So take notes, sceners.
Yes.
If you're not playing with the field of view on your camera and you're not making it smaller, you might be missing out on some really cool effects from the same geometry. So just quick note.
Oh, now she's putting in the FFT stuff.
Yes,
and
that's
giving
exactly
it
what that
is. Cool.
And only sometimes, which is another good idea. Only some of them are affected, which helps to really break up the uniformity. So I think that helps a lot in this scene. And this is also the kind of scene that you could then maybe wrap around a cylinder or do something like that with. I don't know if we'll see that because it would break the illusion a bit, but at the same time it might add something, so we'll see if we see something like that. Provod, almost a little stagnant it seems. Not too much variation other than some camera motion. I'm not sure if there's something we haven't seen or if he's a bit stuck.
It does remove the, or he might have changed the noise function, of course, but I can't see that issue that he had with the static camera anymore.
Yeah, part of that also might be the fact that he moves the camera, because
yeah,
that would
that's
make
what I
it
mean.
harder
Like
to
when
see.
the camera is moving,
Yeah,
kind of obscures that.
which should go to show again that it doesn't really matter a lot of the time.
Yeah.
You can get away with a pretty bad one as long as you're bringing out something else. You get something cool anyway. You can see, especially in the reflections in black holes, when the pillars get really tall, the reflections kind of break up, and that's the artifact I was saying, where with the randomly changing shapes, sometimes you'll miss. But again, you got to be looking for it.
Yeah.
And these coders actually kind of shouldn't be, I think. Again, the overall impression is what matters here.
Now only 2 minutes left. Yeah, so that's what you're looking at. That's the top. You were talking about the.
Yes, how they break up a little.
Yeah. I know that my pointing doesn't mean anything to the audience, but we're looking. There's a projected screen behind the camera that we were looking at. So.
Exactly. You'll see it at the top of the screen, and you'll see it in the reflections similarly.
Yeah.
When they get really tall.
There you go.
Look at that.
There you
go.
go.
There you go.
Nice.
Yeah, map it into a sphere. And that added a lot to this scene, I must say.
Oh yeah.
More than I expected when I said it.
Very cool. Minute 20 seconds left. Talk about making a
I
last
wonder.
minute
I
change.
wonder if she listened or if we just happen to have the same
I hope
thoughts.
she doesn't take advice from videos.
Me too, but I gotta say that worked. That was really cool.
And Probot got rid of the dark and sort of gloomy look. No.
Yeah, adding more lights. I don't know.
Yeah.
Did he light up that wall? Is that what happened?
Looks like it.
Yeah. I think that is what happened.
If he wants to pump that with the music, then that could be cool. But I still like the hard edge that he had going with the. Yeah, you can still see some.
I thought that was cooler with the admittedly with that bit of contrast or really high contrast, and I actually also think he might be missing an opportunity by not playing with any of the textures, because we had some textures with some like neon, neon colors. Yes. And if this had been mapped with that and those were emissive, which everything is in the path tracer, that might have been pretty cool. But what he has as well is still cool. Oh, look at this FFT lighting.
Clever.
That's a good idea.
Oh, he better hurry now.
Yes.
He only has 15 seconds left, so.
Yeah, but it's a great idea. It's a great idea. Right as the music dies down. Oh no. That's one of the problems with FFT. You have no control over that stream. And we are over.
Like this round is over. Keyboards, answer with
down,
keyboards.
yeah.
Keyboards down.
Check this out. Blackhole
And the drums kicking in.
has enabled and disabled that mapping.
Oh, so you're going back and forth.
Changing periodically,
All right.
which is that's a great idea.
And the voting is closed. And holy, yeah, this is fun. This is fun to watch. Cool.
Yeah, these are both awesome shaders.
Very good.
Yeah, it's very cool to have watched that one develop.
And
for a while as
so
well.
radically different, still starting from the same basic concept, right?
Yeah, it's the same remarching technique. Of course, the lighting here is definitely different. We got the basic material model and reflection from Blackhole and path tracing from Provan, so quite different. But yeah, very, very cool.
All right, let us see how this ended. All right, so voting tally keeps going up as we're going down. So this is very interesting. A lot of you voted. So for this, we have Probot with 29 points and Blackhole with 54. So congratulations to Blackhole, who will be going into the finals.
Yes.
Which we will get to quite shortly. We will have a small setup break, in which we will take a break as well, and we will put on a nice slides for you, and then we will come back with the finals.
Yep.
And after that, we will do another check-in with some fellow Norwegian demo sceners up in Trondheim, I think, or somewhere else, who might be up to some ninja stuff, I guess. All right, so see you in a little bit. I like how we get creative with the wipes now.
Yeah.
Which sounds weird.
Really creative.
With All right. There's two hours left of this nonsense.
What?